Brodes Media.
Wow, what a big win for the Philadelphia 76ers. Before we break down the action, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We break down Philadelphia sports every single damn day. And not only that, we'll talk some national coverage as well, so we do it all. Also, hit the like button too. I really do appreciate all the support. Lastly, you have a chance to win a Mark Zumoff t-shirt. The Zooism t-shirts, turning garbage into gold. It's so simple. On my Twitter page, @Brodes81, pinned to the top of my profile, there's a tweet that explains the rules. You have to retweet that tweet and follow my account. Every Wednesday, I select a winner for our new Hump Day giveaway. So you will want to enter to win. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. That was a great team effort. From the head coach all the way down to the last guy on the bench. It was fully everyone involved with the outcome of this game, and the Sixers proved why they were the number one seed. There was so much drama after game one where the Atlanta Hawks are going to win this thing in 5, and all these talking heads totally wrote off the Sixers because of one basketball game. And I tried stressing to everybody that all the time you see the team that's not supposed to win come in and get a big victory, and now all the conversations somehow change to this wild storyline where it's so extreme and so insane when it's a 7-game season series for a reason, I should say. A 7-game series for a reason. So when you watch the Atlanta Hawks go off for 23s, that's not sustainable. When they become more of the norm, when they become more of their identity, they don't have enough to hang with the Sixers. That makes a lot of sense. That's why we said this Hawks team is young, they're growing, they're exciting, they have young, nice pieces, but they're not where the Sixers are at yet. They're where the Sixers were probably 3 years ago. So when you look at their version of the process, they have ways to go. Trae Young has to feel this pain and feel what it's like to be smothered by Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Matisse Thybulle, anyone who comes his way. It did feel like the Sixers snatched the soul from the Hawks today, and there were one of two ways that this was going to go. It would be close to the point where the Hawks feel like they have some life and maybe feel better about Game 4, or the Sixers were going to come with a heavy haymaker and make them feel it, and it would be a crucial gut punch to the point where there's maybe no return. Because if you look at what the Hawks did, they tried something new to defend Joel Embiid, and they threw the house at him to the point where at one time he was getting triple teamed, and he threw it up to Ben Simmons for a lob, and it was an easy basket. But they threw everything at Joel, and I don't think they have any more answers. At some point, your adjustments, they're only so much. You can only do so much until you recognize we don't have enough firepower. We're not ready to compete with the Sixers team yet. And I feel Trae Young sitting on the bench, shaking his head, mouthing words to himself, is him basically realizing, damn, this is a different type of beast. This is a different type of team. We're not ready yet for this. And they're not. And that's okay. That's no knock. That's the norm. That's actually how this is supposed to go. So Joel Embiid, by the way, in his first 30 playoff games, he's averaging 23.8 points per game, 10.8 rebounds per game, over 3 assists per game, 3 on the dot, 1.8 blocks per game. The only two guys to do that through 30 playoff games is a man by the name of Shaquille O'Neal. If you don't know about his dominance, well, geez, and then Robinson. So Joel Embiid's out there with one leg. I don't love the fact that late in the fourth quarter, he's on the floor trying to go up for a block, and he falls, and he stays down for a couple seconds where I get nervous, and then the whole left knee debacle. And by the way, I hate to be that guy, but I am going to be that guy. The Atlanta Hawks fans, they cheered. They cheered both times when Joel Embiid hit the floor, and I know that's not going to become the story, and I think that to a degree it gets annoying when all we talk about is, well, Philadelphia gets all the blame, and everyone hates Philadelphia, and I get bothered by that story here in Philly, how everyone hates us, but it is annoying, I'm not going to lie, to see a crowd seriously. They were cheering. They were bringing the intensity when Embiid started limping with his left leg and grabbing his knee. That's when the crowd rose and started to feel momentum in the building. What kind of sick bastards are you? But it's really not going to make much of the headlines. And regardless, at the end of the day, what's important is winning basketball games. And he's getting to the free throw line. And by the way, defensively, for as elite as he is offensively, and he's scoring in so many different ways, and he's understanding the double teams, the triple teams. He's understanding the pressure. He's realizing where his teammates are. He's passing the basketball very well. With everything he's doing so beautifully offensively, he could probably make more free throws, and I can't believe here I am somewhat nitpicking Joel Embiid's free throw shooting, but he probably could make some. And if you ask Joel himself, I'm sure he would agree. Brodes, you are right. You are a smart man. I love your show. You're the best human that's ever been born. I don't know. I'm just spitballing things that he possibly would say the day that I do meet Joel Embiid on a more personal level. Maybe it's at an ice cream place. Hey, Joel, how's it going? Maybe Sweet Charlie's. Beautiful place in Philadelphia if you haven't been there. They roll the ice cream up on the thing. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, getting back on track, his defense is insane. It's insane that he provides that level of rim protection. And when you talk about the pick and roll game that Atlanta wants to thrive with, Joel Embiid is there. They have the answers. The Sixers figured it out. And I don't know what more the Hawks can truly do. The only thing they can do, I guess, is shoot over 23s per game and have one of those wild ones. But that's the outlier. Not sustainable. Not something that you can do to win 4 times. Maybe 1, maybe 2. 4 times, there's no way in hell. And that's why I was kind of cool, calm, and collected after the Game 1 loss, because I saw it. I saw the ending of that Game 1 where the Sixers applied all their pressure, and it was clear and obvious who the better team was. Tobias Harris. Tobias was 10 of 16, 22 points, 5 assists, and by the way, defense. Okay? Defense. Tobias Harris has came a long way. He's fighting his teammates. He's moving the rock very well. And at times, early on, I'm watching him get back, a good play in transition. I'm like, all right, there you go. Being the leader on and off the floor. I can't stress it enough what Tobias Harris means to this team and the growth and the efficiency. It is night and day. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons did nothing in the first half. He exploded in the third, and Doc Rivers made that a point at halftime. We're going to run plays through you on the post, and you are going to be aggressive. This is why I feel the frustration with Ben. He changed the game. The score was 61-56 at halftime, and that's with an unsung hero like Furkan Korkmaz going to town, dropping an insane amount of points. And we'll get to him later on, and I'll praise him, and I'll even say, God damn it, Furkan Korkmaz, that was stellar. And I was enjoying every moment of you just cashing threes, pretty much flipping the double bird towards me. I'm all here for it, Furkan. Good for you. You had a matchup in this series. I think you could make your shots. If you make your shots, you're going to have some nice success. And he did. He flipped me the double bird. He went from one of the most egregious minutes I've ever seen just a couple games ago to unsung hero. But imagine if Furkan, because you can't rely on Furkan to be that, right? Sort of like how I said with the Atlanta Hawks, the way that they shot the lights out in Game 1, that's not who they are forever. Well, Furkan isn't this forever. Let's say he had the same game he had last game, and then the score is not 61-56. And when I watched Ben Simmons in the first half, he did nothing offensively. I seriously mean nothing. He ran up the floor, he handed the ball off, and every possession, he stood down low and did nothing. And it was eating me alive. He even got to the point where he was 2 inches from the basket, and he decided to throw it to Seth Curry, who wasn't able to get a proper shot off. So he's forcing his teammates to be in uncomfortable spots. Not only that, he grabs an offensive rebound, and because he's unwilling to look at the basket, it was an easy, soft poke right out of his hands. And what do you know? It's a turnover, and here goes the Hawks the other way. So the first half, you're talking abysmal, garbage play out of Ben Simmons. And by the way, I didn't even love everything defensively in the first half. Now, he had some good moments. I'm not saying it was all just putrid, but I thought Ben Simmons in the first half, what the hell is going on? Did you see what he did in the third? It's not ironic that the game changed and it was a huge blowout and a huge run for the Sixers in the third quarter when Ben Simmons put his head down and he attacked in transition. Whether there was a miscue on the Hawks defense or not, he exploded to the rim. And I'll be honest with you, if that was the first half, he probably still wouldn't have even attacked the rim, and he would have kicked it out for a backcourt violation or something. The fact that Ben Simmons explodes the way that he does in the third quarter, that changed the entire game. That is why I get the way that I do when I see Ben take 3 field goals in a game. Because he makes that type of impact. Because he can blow out a game. Because he could put the team on the heels. The opposing team are now on their heels when Ben Simmons is operating in the post and he's using his shoulders and he's getting to the lane and he's actually driving to the basket. Or maybe because there's so much pressure on him attacking, when Joel Embiid goes to the rim, he could stand there nonchalantly and chuck up an alley-oop and hit Joel Embiid with a lot of space flying to the rim. I thought Joel and Ben had a great two-man game dynamic at points, and it all stems from putting pressure on the opposing team's defense with the 6'10 body frame like Ben Simmons. You can do this. And I know that they clearly went to it and said, let's go to Ben Simmons in the post. Ben, you have to be more aggressive. So they changed their whole dynamic and made that something that was focused. But there's still ways to do that and still operate with Joel where you want him to operate in the mid-range game in the block area. And to get Tobias Harris with mismatches that he wants. There's ways to do it all. So don't tell me the only reason why Ben was able to do that is because, well, they weren't really... No. The moral of the story is you can use that mindset of Ben throughout. It doesn't have to be run your offense through Ben in the post, and that's how you have to run your offense all the time. But it's the mentality of Ben that was seriously unreal, and it shows you what he can do when he's willing. It was all just him saying, I'm going to do it. Nothing changed. The opponent on the other side was the same exact opponent. Nothing changed other than the desire and the want to and the focusing on doing it. So please, don't tell me that I'm supposed to be satisfied with 3 field goal attempts in a basketball game because Ben defends. Then you're not seriously objectively looking at how this game transpired, because I thought Ben was so damn incredible. He was so damn lethal that third quarter went for a ride that it went on, all because of the start of Ben Simmons in the second half. So that's why when I don't see it, I lose my mind. That's why when it's not something I get long term and it's not something that is consistent, I get bothered because it's in there. The skill set is in there. The ability is in there. The mismatch is there every game. All of it is there. It's either he does it or doesn't. That first half was absolutely vomit-worthy. Every possession. If you just watched a game, you know how sometimes with left tackles, right tackles, left guards, you go back and watch the all-22, or you go back and watch the game and you focus strictly on them. It changes the way that you kind of view everything, right? Well, if you just watched Ben in the first half, you'd be sick to your stomach. And if you're not, shame on you, because I thought that was just brutal. And it tells you everything you need to know when Ben brings that type of energy, because it's what we're looking for. It's the superstar talent that we praise, and when you don't get it, you're allowed to get annoyed. You're allowed to let out that rage, because this should be more consistent by year 4. There's no denying it. Trae Young went 9 of 17, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. You know he's going to get his crafty fouls. You might not like it coming around the screen. Ben Simmons is flying into him, and he stops and throws up a shot. These shooters do that. This is basketball 101. Joel Embiid went to the line 16 times. He had 16 free throw attempts. So there were plenty of times where Joel did the same thing. There was the one where there were 3 guys on him, and he's fading away with his one leg up, and I didn't see any contact on the replay at all, but it's just Joel Embiid being Joel Embiid. Your stars will get the favor, and you will get the benefit of the doubt, and you'll start knocking some free throws down. That's just reality of the situation. So, sure, the refs were bad. Matisse Thybulle fouls out. He had 6 fouls. The last one was challenged. Ben Simmons came off the floor with 5 personal fouls. It looked like the hack of Ben was probably something that Doc Rivers was thinking about, and I keep going back to the quote of him saying that we don't know what we're talking about, and Ben Simmons is way too good to take off the floor. You didn't take him off the floor because there were 5 personal fouls. You took him off the floor because there was a mini Hawks run that the Sixers Sixers countered with at the end, so they exploded, and Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, their guys, Furkan Korkmaz with a big shot late as well. It wasn't just the first quarter. He had a big three in the fourth quarter as well, but during that time, it's not ironic to me that Ben Simmons was taken off the floor. The problem was Matisse Thybulle fouled out, so, that's kind of the road they went on. Furkan Korkmaz, he impressed me. 14 points, and I'll tell you what, plus 24 on the day. When you look through the plus minus, I always look at the outlier. What stands out? Who's the worst minus and who's the highest plus? And if everyone's somewhat in the same category, it's not something that I feel should be an insane talking point. But when you get a player that's plus 24, when the other guys are plus 14, plus 13, plus 15, it's telling. Furkan Korkmaz also had 2 steals. Now, I do think that this Hawks team, they're not just filled with the most lethal talent in the world. And I think just like the Wizards series, the way that the Sixers set themselves up, they could get away with using 11 guys in the first 2 series. They could get away with using different bench pieces when you're playing this type of talent. But Furkan, it's been an up and down ride. And Doc Rivers, we've been questioning as a fan base, why Shake Milton? Well, Shake Milton goes off and is a key contributor in Game 2. Why Furkan Korkmaz? Furkan Korkmaz came in prior to Shake Milton. What is Doc Rivers doing? Well, he pushed the right buttons again. So I'm with everybody else. I'm confused with what he's trying to do. I'm a little baffled with some of the usage of the guys. But over the last 2 nights, whatever button he pushed ended up working out. So as much as we criticize and wonder and we're concerned, and it's fair to be, because it might work tonight, but will this work against the Nets? Will this work against whatever you see moving on? I don't know if it will have the same type of energy and the same type of results, and it's like, if this is your philosophy, you might have to toy around with your philosophy as the opponent changes and as the rosters on the other side has a bit more talent to deal with. But we'll worry about that once we get there. Doc Rivers pushed the right buttons with the bench. You had minutes from Dwight Howard that were very important. I loved the 3-point attempt by Dwight Howard that hit nothing but the backboard. It almost missed the entire backboard. George Hill, who had a really tough day at the office, ends up picking up the rebound and shooting a 3. And that's when you knew the game was kind of like, wow, all right, this is the Sixers for sure. But there was one moment. If you've been listening to me for a while, there's always that one moment that I look at where it's, aha! That right there, that should be the finishing touches. And it was actually in the third quarter with 1:02 to go. Embiid with a huge block on the defensive end. Korkmaz then misses a corner 3, but Embiid gets the rebound and puts it back up for 2. That gave the Sixers a 91-73 lead. After that, Joel Embiid gets fouled. Now he's on the free throw line for 2 more free throws, which put them up 93-73. And I thought that little stint, that little run right there with the Embiid block leading to an Embiid 2 after a Korkmaz miss, and then Embiid getting 2 more points, that made it 4 points right there. Bang, 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 bang. You're up 20. And basically, that Hawks crowd was silenced pretty early. And I like the fact that not super early. Super early, you're talking about 6 turnovers for each team in the first quarter. And it reminded me of the disaster that we saw between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets, because that was a bad game of basketball. That was a gong show. And the Milwaukee Bucks ended up squeezing it out. But I'll tell you what, this team, they grinded. And it wasn't easy, considering it seemed like a lot of guys were getting nicked up. Danny Green left the game with that strain, and it did not sound good. When Doc Rivers was speaking about it afterwards, it did not seem good, and he was actually looked at on the bench at one point, and he had on a walking boot. So they keep talking about good spirits, this and that. It's not great. And for Danny Green right now, he's in a tough spot. He wasn't playing very well prior to that injury, but, for anyone thinking, oh, don't worry about it, he wasn't playing good, that's the wrong mentality, because like a light switch, Danny Green could be flipped on and boom, now you're talking about such a elite spacing player that you need. And this is definitely something to monitor. I don't think it looks good. I'm not very optimistic about the situation. I guess I would be pleasantly surprised if it wasn't a bad news. I'd be pleasantly surprised if it wasn't bad news, but I don't think it's as easy to say, well, we have other guys. We do have other guys. We do. Matisse stepped in, and you do have other guys, but it hurts. It definitely hurts. He's a veteran, experienced player that does the little things right, that gives you some help with the spacing on the floor. It does matter. It's not a simple loss, so let's pray that it's not anything wild. Tobias Harris, at one point was grimacing on the sideline and was telling Doc, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. He came back into the game then. He also hit his head on the cameraman. As I alluded to earlier, Joel Embiid was flopping all around and hitting the deck 10,000 times. So, there was just like guys all over the map just getting banged up. And that's the competitive nature of playing in the playoffs. But to a degree, it's like, damn, what's going on here in Atlanta? I thought it was going to be the Wings and the strip club that takes out the Sixers when they're in between games 3 and 4 because they're going to have a couple days off to have some fun with it. But no, it might just be actually playing the damn game. Who knew? Who would have thought, huh? Pretty damn wild. How about that? So Herter got into foul trouble, and I thought that this was pretty big for the Hawks. He had picked up his third personal foul with 9:38 to go in the second quarter. So he had 3 personals with basically the entire second quarter left to play. So that was pretty hurtful for them, him picking up that foul. And they've had their shooters make some shots for them. You can't rely on that absurd amount of shots that they were making previously. It's just not realistic. It's not something that can be forever. If it would be forever, it's a different story. It ain't forever, and you can see the frustration starting to boil with that team. I would be, my gut told me before this game that the Sixers were going to split in Atlanta, win in 6 by splitting in Atlanta, going back to Philly 2-2, and then winning Game 5 at home, winning Game 6 on the road. That's how I thought it was going to play out. I'm not ruling that out. I still think that that's fair as much as, if the Hawks have one of those nights where they shoot really well, they can snag another. It's not impossible. But the way that this game went down, it did feel like there was a sense of, you're screwed. You're done. You don't have it. You just don't have it. You can't hang with us physically. You can't hang with our defensive intensity. You're not getting good enough looks. You're not generating enough from your top dog in Trae Young. He seems clustered and overwhelmed. And with the offensive side, when you get Joel playing that way, you don't have an answer for Joel. You don't have an answer for Seth Curry when he takes his shots. You don't have the answer for some of these players. And at the end of the day, for it to be the bench to splash the way that they did, kudos to them because you just don't play the same way on the road that you do at home. When you go on the road and the atmosphere is different, your bench players historically do not play as strong. It's not as easy to communicate. It's not as a perfect of a spot for you. And I'm just basing this off of what you see throughout the NBA over decades and decades and decades. Your road players or your bench players on the road just don't have that same type of impact. But they did today, and that's a beautiful thing to see for sure. Before we get to your calls on the Anytime Hotline, DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It is easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out inside credits. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, I'm excited to hear the reaction after this one. It was just a beautiful game. It was a beautiful outing, and it was a great team win. I thought they came together as a unit. They battled through it, and they really rose to the occasion, saying, we're on the road now. We're 1-1. It's not where we envisioned being. It's not where we want to be. Let's take home court advantage back. We have to do that. We wanted to be the number 1 seed for a reason. We thought it was so damn important to have home court advantage. Make sure we don't lose that. Make sure we punch them in the mouth and grab it back, and they did it. And a lot of players stepped up, including the top 3 guys on your team that you are supposed to rely on. Joel Embiid, sensational. Tobias Harris, amazing. And just, I love admiring the step that he took from last year to this season. And Ben Simmons, that third quarter was outrageous. And Ben, all I ask is to see that every day. That's all. Because there's no reason why. Joel Embiid does it every night. Tobias Harris does about 85% of the time. Sometimes he has hiccups along the way, but 80 to 85% of the time, Ben, you need to do this more. That third quarter, you need to do more. There's no excuse for that first half. Just none. All you did was stand there. All right, let's hear the reaction from the people. Here we go. The Anytime Hotline.
All right, Brodes. 13-game home winning streak by Atlanta broken by the Sixers. We recapture home court advantage. Right now, I'm looking at it. It's 120 left in the fourth quarter. We're up 124-109. This game is a wrap. But I stated to some friends that you will see in Game 3 the 76ers that were ranked number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and you will see the reason why they are ranked number 1. This defense was the star of the game. Later.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ironic that when you change Danny Green to Ben Simmons and then you just changed the way that you were playing Trae Young, that everything kind of spiraled the way that it needed to. It spiraled out of control for the Atlanta Hawks, that's for damn sure, but it went in the right direction for the Sixers. You put on the treasure that you have defensively in Ben Simmons. You have Matisse Thybulle as the Swiss Army knife, and they were able to compact on him and force him to be all over the place, and there's no denying that he doesn't feel comfortable out there. He's not getting the same looks that he's used to. You know, sometimes once in a blue moon, there's a mismatch on Tobias Harris, and he'll try and do something, or maybe it's Seth Curry when it's that pick and roll that they get picked up early and they do the switch. Like, sometimes he sees a moment here and there, but even when that happens, it's like he's rushing to get into what he wants to do because of that. And then there's times where he'll try and do the lob, and Joel Embiid reads it perfectly. I just think the Sixers kind of figured out what they were trying to do, and it was a feel-out game. It was a, all right, let's see what they have. Let's see what they want to run. Let's look at their offensive sets, and now it's been exposed, and there's a reason why I said calm down after game 1. They need to win 3 more games, and I just feel the Sixers had enough. It was a pretty simple statement for me after they went down 0-1. It was, the answers are on the Sixers roster. If the answers were not on the Sixers roster, I would feel differently. So I know people don't want to hear this, and I'm sure people are sick and tired of hearing this, but Kevin Kincaid, who covers the Sixers for Crossing Broad, put this out a couple days ago, and I do want to talk about it. It was after Game 2. And it was mentioned about how, isn't it so nice to see Doc Rivers actually make an adjustment? Isn't it nice to see a coach can actually make an adjustment? And I want to get exactly to his counterpoint because they were pretty much taking a shot at Brett Brown. Here it is. He goes, how crazy is it to look back and think Brett Brown would have never made an adjustment like this? And he was talking about the switching early on the pick and roll. And Kevin Kincaid said, Brett Brown actually made a lot of adjustments in the Toronto and Brooklyn 2019 series. Put Embiid on Siakam, doubled off defensive mismatches, did some sagging to address the Nets pick and roll, and hedge and recovered with Redick. It was there, but people did not want to give any credit to Brett Brown. And if you go back through the Raptors Sixers, the series changed when Nick Nurse started rolling the double big lineup as an answer to the Sixers' size. But Brett did not have an answer back to that. Boban Marjanovic and Greg Monroe, they're your only options. At some point, you don't have the answers. You don't have the answers. And when you think about the Atlanta Hawks, they don't have the answers anymore. So when the Sixers lost their first game, you knew the answers were on the Sixers roster. It was just about making the puzzle pieces fit, doing the right things to change, what was working for Atlanta, force them to start making more mistakes, force them to turn the ball over more, get them uncomfortable in certain possessions. It's not as if the Sixers didn't have what it took on the roster. They clearly did, and it's showing now, and that's why I was not overreacting to what we saw after the first game.
Wow, an actual good game for Furkan Korkmaz tonight. How often do you say that? And by the way, can we please stop shading on Ben Simmons too while we're at it? He brought full focus to the table tonight. Also, this is karma to Hawks fans for cheering Embiid's injury. No one feels bad for your blowout loss. Enjoy your loss. Brodes, over to you.
All right, baby. Yeah, Furkan Korkmaz, I've given that guy hell all year long. And to a point, I just have fun with it because it's entertaining to kind of just keep that Furkan thing going. But look, he had a really good game today. And I think that the matchups in the first 2 rounds, they allow it for him to kind of do that. But he's making the most of his opportunity, especially now when you know that the bench is so random and you're just getting plucked here and there, and you might play this game, you might only play 2 minutes that game, you might do this, you might get that. You have no idea. You have no idea what Doc Rivers is going to do. So take away who it is, and just from a competitive standpoint, the fact that you get your number called and you fly out there like that and make those threes. That was a huge part of the first quarter and that first stretch because, well, you weren't getting the greatest offensive looks in the world. It was very sloppy. You were turning the rock over at times. It was pretty damn annoying to witness. And here comes Furkan just letting it fly, and he was making the shots. And even at the point where there was some miscommunication between him and Joel Embiid and the ball was bouncing, it could have been another turnover. But Joel gets it. He flips it over to Furkan in the corner. He hits you with the pump fake, slides over. Nothing but net. So, yeah, Furkan deserves a lot of crazy praise. No doubt about it for this effort coming off of a disaster one. But that's Furkan, right? Also, it's like he was like trash last game. And then he was amazing this game. It's not, hey, Furkan is the most amazing player ever. This is why, this is what Furkan is. But he was big tonight. There's no denying that he was big tonight. In terms of can we relax on Ben? If anything, I believe that this only makes the conversation stronger. If you're a Ben Simmons hater that thinks he just blows, well, then you're not a part of this. You're in a different category. If you're like me that has popped on Ben Simmons and can't stop thinking about it because it keeps you up at night because you're so flabbergasted because you know how elite he can be and he's not doing it because he's not willing, well, then this only opens the door for that to even be more of the dialogue. Ben, you were amazing in the third quarter. Nobody could stop you every game. Every game. There's nothing different in that third quarter than the first quarter, than the second quarter, than the fourth quarter, than any game. That ability is in you. That ability to take over. It was 61-56 at half. That's a 5-point game. The Sixers were in cruise mode in that third quarter. Why? Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons. So, no, I won't stop. If anything, we're talking more about it.
Embiid just scares me. He's so good, but every time he hits the floor, man, it's like, ugh. I just still have the most infinite respect for him just coming out here and playing on a torn meniscus. That's insane. As for the Danny Green injury, my theory with role players is that if an injury to a role player is what prevents you, is an excuse for losing a series, then you weren't going to win that series anyway. We should still win the series without Danny Green. I mean, obviously it's a big loss. You don't want him to be injured, but it shouldn't be series affecting. They showed up. They took care of business. Ben Simmons was really aggressive coming out of halftime like that. Free throws are still a problem. Tobias Harris looked great these playoffs. Same with Seth Curry. Nice to see Shake Milton get back out there and get into a bit of a groove. Let's go up 3-1 on.
Look, I think calling Danny Green a role player is a little disrespectful, to be honest with you. He's a starter, and he's more than a role player. A role player is George Hill, Dwight Howard. Danny Green means a lot more than this team than just a role player. Now, he's not Tobias, Ben, Joel, but he's also not Dwight Howard, George Hill, or Shake Milton. I mean, he's more of an impact than that, so he's an in-betweener, I guess, but he's a starter. And you're right, it shouldn't cost you this series. Could it be serious enough to cost you down the road? Yeah, I think Danny Green is that important to this team. There's a reason why they have the win percentage that they do when the starting five is intact and they're rolling out there on the floor. So I think that there was a bit of some disrespect in that call towards Danny Green. I don't think you're giving him enough recognition for all the little things and all the professionalism that he does on the floor, just because right now it's the recency bias of thinking that Danny Green isn't some important piece to the puzzle. He definitely is. He's just had a couple tough moments, and maybe there's a correlation. Maybe there's a correlation between what happened with this strain and where he is over the last two games. Maybe he knew it wasn't right, and then something happened tonight where it aggravated, and then it took him out of control, and he realized, like, hey, I got to go out back into the locker room because this isn't working. I can't play through this. Maybe he wasn't able to be the effective player we needed him to be because of that. And it lingered until something worse happened, and then he had to be taken off the floor. So maybe there is a correlation between what happened and that. But I thought that there was some disrespect there. In terms of Joel Embiid and the torn meniscus, yeah, I think it's one of those things, when it's over, you have the time to digest it maybe. One of those, we're in the moment and we're in awe and we're just so accustomed to watching him dominate for so long that it's just another day at the office. But we're not in denial. That's the wrong way to put it. But, it's just amazing. And I think because we're living in it in the moment, it's sort of like, for example, when I played junior hockey in Boston, my first year of playing juniors after high school, I lived in a hockey house with 8, 9 of my teammates, and it was the best year of my life. It was so damn fun. It was so damn amazing. And it was probably the best 7-8 months that I've ever experienced. And then we left. And when I left to drive home, I remember leaving Boston, my hockey bag, all my shit in the back of my trunk. And I actually cried. Like, it was that much of a family. It was that much of an awesome atmosphere. And when I left, that's when it hit me the most. Like, damn, did that really happen? Was that year really for real? Did I just have the greatest season of my life and the most fun I've ever had playing hockey in my life? And the answer was yes, but during those months, it was just another day at the office. I'd go to the rink. We'd play our games. We'd hit the road. We'd do this. We'd do that. And you didn't think about it until you left. And I think until, the season's over or until next season, the off season begins. It's like, remember when Joel Embiid dropped 40+ and dominated a playoff run, and we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we played the Nets, and we beat the Nets, and we did this when Joel had a torn meniscus? It's one of those driving away moments from that hockey house. That's how I kind of describe it, and it's pure amazing. It really is pure amazing. It's pure amazement. It amazes me, and it's so damn purely awesome. I don't know how to use pure in that sentence. I'm just trying my best to maneuver through it. If I did not get to your anytime hotline, because there obviously are a bunch after each game, I will utilize some of your calls in the next day or two as we continue to lead up to Game 4. So your voice will be heard. You can call in 856-442-9805 as well if you didn't call in at all. So the option is there for you. I want to thank you all so much for listening. What a beautiful victory for the Sixers. And I will see you next time.